Hello everyone, so today we talk about this new policy that probably will say, oh my god, Donald Schwerpunkt needs money now, I won't give him a cent, what he's doing, he was all about moral forces now, what's all this materialism about? We're really not, right? I presume we're capitalists in a sense, but not quite, centering our life around money. Unfortunately for many, it's really a problem. I mean, it's really a serious issue, and I can tell you, as I've always done in my channel update videos, that this is kind of an appendix of just for the novelty, for the news themselves. I do this without particular need of money, right? In the sense that I have by far now passed from 2 years already the thresholds for monetization of the channel, and I haven't done it. I have been making a video a day for now almost 3 years, so aside from some stop here and there, but I like doing this thing, and objectively, let's say, I don't do this principally for success meant as a monetizable thing. Everything is monetizable, just a little economy lesson that I guess I don't have to give you, that all the time that I spend and that you spend making these videos, respectively listening to them, has a cost, right? So it's already a big deal we are doing this in the first place, and there is already much at stake and involved. And I told you many times why I do these videos. I think there is, at the end of the day, an educational purpose, right? I don't it's a bit, I often say disclosuring rather, but I don't like cathedratic tones, maybe sometimes a bit rambly, polemic and apodictic and so on, and that reveals also my kind of aggressive, ambitious side. But at the end of the day, I benefited from doing this, because otherwise I would have not really done it, for aspects that I commented here and there that mostly have to do literally with my historical work. That is, without Schwerpunkt, I would have done consistently worse in these years as a historian myself, right? And of course, what I do as a historian has enriched Schwerpunkt in a way, but you would be surprised. Probably the balance is in favor of Schwerpunkt in terms of how much this has given to me just through doing it. And of course, money has always been in my mind. As I was saying, I'm not particularly in need, nor I think I will be my life, because fortunately I'm secure with my situation. I don't. Part of the reason why I can afford doing this is exactly because of that. What happened recently is that after having had a bit more free time after the end of my research, I set certain things, including with this old idea of starting initially with donations. Now, donations are, of course, by default free, in the sense that now I've been using, also thanks to some of you that a very specific person that told me I wanted to use Patreon at the beginning, but Patreon is a bit like you can ask for free donations, but there is also there the possibility of, let's say, unlocking certain content just for those who pay more. So it's a bit more managerial, business-like in a sense. I used directly PayPal for those who do not know the system, and I didn't know up to a few times if I actually used it some year ago, but I had even forgotten. And it's something very, very simple. So simple it's almost embarrassing. Like you have literally to have a very few clicks and connecting this site account on your credit card, whatever, and simply giving or getting money from people that send you this. And this is like the freest. It's for free. It doesn't. There's just a commission when you make a donation, I guess, or you maybe receive. I don't know about the donation itself because I haven't done it. But when you actually deposit the money on your own whatever it is, a bank account or a credit card, it maybe takes one box at a time. I don't know what's the percentage, frankly, but and I start this for a very simple reason. That is to say, and there is a bit of changing in my policy here that is hopefully going to help primarily the channel. I mean, not particularly me in terms of me getting money at this point through the donations, because as I will explain to you now, this money would be basically reinvested in YouTube to make the channel larger for a number of reasons. Because when I began this, I thought, began to think about monetization and said, yes, maybe I can keep, my first idea was not inserting ads of any kind, because also YouTube tells you basically, ads are fine. I see most YouTubers fundamentally, and I'm fine with them ideally, right? I don't have, as a capitalist, any problem with that. It's fair, right? And there is really nothing bad. But in my case, at least, and this is also an economical thinking, and YouTube says the same. It says, when you're starting the channel, they tell you, do not monetize immediately, right? Do not impose the ads, etc., to a channel that is still to grow, right? And here I've long surpassed the thresholds I was telling you before, but I still thought that it would be somewhat unfair for you to get ads here. I mean, it would be just like probably the simple ones of like 5 seconds, then skip ad, and the video starts and there is nothing in the middle. I have, as I tell you here, some, I would even have to earn, frankly, from the fact that my videos are very long, and in fact they have obviously a higher watch length than the average. That is what YouTube actually praises more, right, and rewards more in that regard. But I didn't want to insert ads, and probably in the short term I will not. I will keep not inserting them. It's completely open. As you know, you can watch every video. On the contrary, because this happens at some point, you see any kind of ad on my videos, you should please tell me, because it's nothing I've done, and I don't think it is the case. So I'm really also a beginner in these things. I have never wrapped my mind around this stuff. So my idea was to leave this stay, right, like never inserting ads. And I said, but the channel will grow at some point, and I will make maybe something with donations that are something completely free, so it's completely on the person. I have already received some gifts through this privately for what I do, and they were very appreciated. And even in there, it wasn't for the money, even though, of course, for the persons, of course, that paid it to me. To me, it's important they did, but of course, they were mostly gifts of historical value that were to me worthy than way more than the money that it was sent. So in that sense, of the money that they were on the market. So for me, they were ever more precious, and that's why I don't count it. I had to monetize it again, because to me it's really something way more symbolical and therefore also way more precious than their actual market price. But aside from that, my realization was another, that I checked fundamentally the Schwerpunkt's rate of growth, and I realized that albeit the channel is somewhat growing and it has some periods of stasis, etc., let's say it's normal for YouTube channels to at the beginning fly very low, right, and to have this very slow growth, almost barely even perceptible in the longer run. And we've done well. As I told you some days ago, we surpassed 3,600 subscribers. Many of you are subscribing right in these days, and I don't get even how that happens, right? Statistics could help me, but frankly, I don't care to observe that. I mean, it's so unpredictable that it wouldn't help me anyway. And I realized that, however, from the stats, Schwerpunkt videos have a bonus, right? They are searched by people most of you have arrived here through a half of view. I see. Through an actual YouTube search. That is, you were searching for something specific and you came across my content and decided to subscribe. Secondly, there is also, let's say statistically, for those who get acquainted to my content, a high level of fidelization. That is to say, you don't just pass by. You compared to the YouTube average, you tend to stay, right? You see it even through the subscribers. All in all, we lost like just a 10% of subscribers of those who had done in absolute terms throughout all the whole path. So it's basically out of 10 people, 9 subscribe to stay. Statistically, and this is very meaningful to me because I didn't experience any ups and dramatic. More than ups, downs, I'd say. Ups have happened naturally, but that, as I was telling you, and as we'll focus better now, are more random than they seem. So this means in practice that, and also there is this higher watch length. That from one side is obvious because the videos are longer than the average. Way longer than the YouTube average, and therefore you tend to follow it more. But this is great news because all in all we have this picture of a heavy specific weight of these videos that, however, seem to be suffering from the fact that nobody that they do not enter in the broader circle of recommendations and or of I don't sponsor them. I haven't paid a single cent for them yet, and as we'll see, we'll try to do it now because that's what I want to do at this point through donations. Right? It's not because I want to get money for spending them for another reason, but it would be for the channel. And in that sense, it would be for the possibilities of expanding Schwerpunkt. Let's say fan base and subscriptions in a way that it can strengthen the same channel's future in a sense. I think this is important to some of you, at least that I see are regularly here and that appreciate my content. I know that the formula of my video is also probably one of the reasons, but main consistent reasons why they're not watched. But at the same time, I realized that first of all, YouTube has an incredible output. Like I don't know how many millions of hours are uploaded every day. So it's difficult to rise, right? And the fact that I achieved 3,600 subscribers and more in 3 years, 2 years and a half, let's say, it's of course that doesn't speak for the brilliancy of the channel's at least ability to promote itself, but definitely the data says that those who come here have a specific interest, or at least that they like it in a way that is somewhat different, right? And I don't want to brag too much because I'm actually a modest person, but when I'm also objective, and I must say that obviously enough, the content we make here is often way more, on average at least, more in depth, right? More researched, more critical, more, let's say, historical in the proper sense of the word that in other that other entertainment channels do, because there are lots of beautiful history channels that I see also from your own subscriptions are you usually follow, right? So you know what they are about, but chances are like this, that sometimes there are very lengthy and well-researched documentaries, like even 2 hours long, about certain specific topics that, however, come every once in some month, right? Or at least they're not something that happens every day. On the other hand, you have shorter videos that are a bit cartoonish, but filmsy, and where there is, of course, they kind of lack of research. For example, I was searching recently, as you know, some of you know at least, I've made a battle of Rio Salado, and I also didn't know before I made the video, and I had researched a bit on it before doing it, of course, and as sometimes I do, because I want to, I have some kind of marketing in my mind at this level. My 6 months of economical studies, are probably the reason, probably the indicator that I'm not good at it, and I left them for that reason. But anyhow, I try, even just out of curiosity, because I'm interested in this. Historically, right? How many others had made a video on that battle? And I realized basically none, right? There's like a 13 minutes one that I see, it's a bit the cartoonish type that shows you visually how the battle gone, and the battle didn't go like that, right? It's completely misleading, and even just on the base of the sources, like the video is nice. Maybe the person who researched this, okay, I have nothing against the person, but you see, you get somebody not to just look at things very superficially and making them think they actually know something about that. Well, it's better than nothing, I give you that, but let's be honest, I don't know anybody that on YouTube that makes at least battle and therefore tactical analysis like I do, right? It's not a matter of saying, other scholars do, right? It's simply that a few people actually take the capacity and the criticism. You know why? Because first of all, of course the videos are scripted. There is a research behind that. There is usually a speaker in these more successful channels, but let's say that it's always somebody writing something for someone else, and also trying to maintain a bit of bit of synthesis, a bit of conciseness. And the problem is that these battles cannot be researched and reconstructed without endless digressions and all the possibilities that might have actually taken place, because sometimes we do not even understand well what happened. Those YouTubers do not want to give the impression that it's so complicated, just want to tell you the story and not to make the history, which is a different thing. Well, on Schwerpunkt, we do the history in a sense. It can be, I tell you, I always tell you when I'm not expert about most of the things I discuss, right? I actually rarely talk about my proper field of specialization, and surely there is some information here and there, and of course a broader interest that I have, all this information I take is from books that I either have already read or that I can't study in the meanwhile, research on. I like to look at sources and so on. Then of course we make I must say the battle videos that we don't do very frequently, exactly because they are more demanding, are a bit my favorite ones, are some of the ones I'm more satisfied with, and then in fact seem to receive greater interest and appreciation in that reconstructional dimension, because it gets serious, right? It gets serious as history should be, at least, trying to tell you the comprehensive picture, not just some concise sum that doesn't even acquaint you with the actual historical problem that lays behind it. Then we talk about lots of other stuff that is very it's more conceptual in a sense, like, for example, I don't know, the videos we make on the history of the prehistory, I would say, of knighthood, also history of religion, the military religious dimension of ancient medieval warfare, in a anthropological and properly religious sense, right? That has nothing to do with the ideology, or that here we some of you tell me, I started following you because you're relatively unbiased. I mean, you don't. At least you can have a bias, but you are by default neutral. I mean, you set your grounds like that in an objective sense. You don't try to say, okay, I'm neutral and objective, and then I simply say, I'm a fanboy of those guys. No, it never happens like that. I just dialectically also liked always. I have some sympathies, of course, but I try to present you with the matter, how we can measure it literally from a political, social, and military point of view in an historical sense, not because I have to make the story of the bad guys or the good guys. And you know that, because also we talk about topics that are very easily exploitable from an ideological point of view. I don't know, we talk often about crusades, we talk often about the Turkish wars. So many of you, I realize it, are conservative, others aren't. But you come here and you stay, even if not just because I tell the story for what it was like. I don't, as you know, my videos are very dark. They say also pretty heavy things, very brutal. But I tell you, look, that this was kind of the norm at certain levels there, and even those with it, more or less, it had their own reasons that must be investigated historically, and and that's an important, that's something that attracts you. I mean, if I have to say, what probably attracts you here, that at least makes you stay, because how you're attracted by the channel is a different thing. I wouldn't say I'm disappointed by it, but let's say if I told you some stats about what's the actual search about, yeah, things go. But it's still good, because at least I grab your attention, and at that point, that I don't want to convince you of anything, but at least you start listening and you get acquainted to something that, in some cases at least, you may have not maybe seen from that perspective. I don't say no, you didn't know before, whatever, but this is Schwerpunkt's point, to let's say go in tandem with the historical thing, not with the storytelling, which is another thing. And as you know, and as you see, my storytelling kind of sucks, yeah, because I don't have much, philanthropic attitude, nor particular expressional skills, etc. I just have stuff in my mind that is maybe, yeah, sometimes interesting, but I get it from elsewhere, like everybody. So I deliver this kind, I disclose this content, and of course I add also part of me into it. It's impossible to do otherwise, but I always try to do it in a way that you don't get annoyed with, and especially when I get polemical, I maybe overstep, but still, you accept that, and it's great, because I thought I would receive much more negative feed. Instead, basically, I don't get any, which is pretty strange, honestly, given the things I discuss. So I'm satisfied on that ground. Also, maybe this happens because maybe the channel is still small, it's relatively niche, but I guess that I'm getting your attention from, let's say, a rationalistic and anti-dogmatic standpoint that, I mean, should be an important, that is usually what military historians are about. So maybe there's nothing to be surprised of that we like warfare and we tend to approach it in this way. Albeit, indeed, there is a huge ideologism out there among people that are interested in these topics. So to always do something more in this regard, and as I told you, there are a lot of people who thanked me for even just, some information that make them start some certain paths on their own. I mean, historical ones, or even life choices, etc., that make me think that this is worth doing. Because I benefit from it mentally, culture, I mean, it helps me. I learn things together with you. Don't think that I know all this stuff by myself. And you evidently also appreciate, in a way or in another, I also appreciate that you're not dramatically vocal. I presume that the silent majority is always better than what one would expect, right? Then I wouldn't like to be disappointed, but let's say in some cases like this, I think I count on a solid, let's say, on fair people that appreciate, in fact, objectivity, that do not feel the need to, let's say, enter in contrast, but just to have a dialogue, to have an understanding. That is because they are interested, that there is an exchange, like I do something, you do something. And as I often say, the channel is me. I'm responsible for it. I'm in charge here, but without you, it wouldn't be what it is. Like, you are as important as me for Schwerpunkt, and there is no doubt about this. I am just the directional side of the story, but the importance, what Schwerpunkt can do for people is what we, and mainly you, do together. Because yes, I make a video a day, but you are the ones who share it. You are the ones who think about it. You are the ones who start reading and buying books and maybe getting to university and expanding knowledge in turn, and talk about it. And I've had here teachers that sent their pupils to listen to my videos. It told me, right? And so there is a function here. There is some positive in it. You know what? Maybe you don't notice that because of course you can't listen to everything, but I think you get what my moral standpoint is. I believe there can always the more you do for a positive, with a positive intent, the more you can achieve. And if we think that this is good, we should keep doing it, right? So to go back on the concept of the donation, the idea is that simply as that you have for anybody that wants to contribute to Schwerpunkt, and I stress, I don't count at all on this money. Like, I to me, it's indifferent. But for Schwerpunkt's sake, I activated this PayPal account donation, and it's simply, you can trace it, can find it simply through, because it's my email, right? It is Schwerpunkt 226@gmail.com. It's simply that. It's always been my email. Some of you already written me. So if you know how PayPal works, you just search for that. You find me there, and you can make any free donation that you want, whenever you like, if you like, if you feel it's this is important for you. And I tell you now that I'm going to spend whatever arrives on that card. I mean, on that account, because it's connected to my card, but I have some limitations here, and I explain you why in a while. And I will, in due time, I don't know, depends on how much I do, rather. But in promoting, I presume single videos. I don't know whether you can promote the channel. That is, I pay YouTube practically to boost the views and fundamentally to get more. This is very important because I was talking years ago with a friend / colleague of mine who was also passionate about ancient warfare, by the way, and is an antiquist. I think he ended up being a medievalist. I don't know. Well, whatever. A bit like me, actually. And he was explaining, because he has a Facebook page, and he told me something that is surely valid for YouTube as well, that he's practically that you can sponsor your own videos, you can pay this amount of money. Just on Facebook it functions the same way. YouTube is kind of more commercial, it's more apt to it, and of course, I don't know, 10,000 people may watch your content but still not subscribe, so it's a question mark all the time. But given the data that I provided you with before, that is to say that most people tend to like this when they discover that it even exists. They tend, more than the YouTube average, to subscribe, to listen, etc. I presume that it wouldn't be bad to try this. That is to say, everything that I receive will be spent to boost the channel forever. This is the point. PayPal basically functions like this. That I don't think there are limits of any kind. Money you can receive, unless you don't give your full name, and I haven't given my full name there. So because I still haven't revealed myself, let's say, and it's not a big deal, but I'm just a bit, I like my privacy, but not because I'm dramatically, I'm not introverted. I'm very introverted, but I'm not shy. That's for sure. I've been talking in front of people multiple times, and I had literally zero emotions and whatever. I do it. It's just, I don't know. I just don't want to know that. I don't know, that not even just a few relatives know about this, a few other people, and that's pretty much it. And I would like to keep it like this for a while, right? What's the deal? Well, the deal is that if I don't reveal my full name, which I haven't inserted on PayPal because my name there is Schwerpunkt, I can get only something like 2,500 euros a transaction every year with a card. So what I think this means in practice is that, which I don't think it's ever going to happen, that if I get 2,500, more than 2,500 euros on through via PayPal, I basically cannot transfer that money, not a single cent more on my card for a year, if I get any of it, right? Which is not a big deal, because I repeat it. First of all, it's very unlikely that I'm ever going to get that money. And secondly, I don't even care. And third, it would be well enough for sponsoring Schwerpunkt at that point on YouTube. At the point of making it arrive, I presume, to a satisfactory size in terms of subscriptions, so that I wouldn't need donations. I wouldn't need to do this, but simply to, at that point, but we're talking about large enough numbers, so I presume I won't do it before I have more than 30,000 subscribers or more, because frankly, I'm still allergic to ads, really. I don't want you to get them. But at that point, let's say if I get 50,000, 100,000 subscribers, it would be a lot, right? But if I do, well, at that point I will insert ads, because that would give me if the channel is going to be here, because it's all a question mark. We don't know, and that's why I also don't rely at all on this. I do other things in my life. I can get maybe via ad some decent, like a normal salary with that, but it has to arrive to very high peaks, and it's a bet, right? It's a bet because assuming that, given that there are so many people that are enthusiastic about other properly historical content and that maybe have never seen this, well, I want to bet, and you would bet if you ever wanted to donate in this sense, that this channel at that point can stand on its feet, and to do even something bigger. Because let's be honest, I'm not a very competitive person in my life. I mean, I like to compete mostly with myself. At every level of my life, it's ever been like that. I've always been very kind of a lone wolf type of, I don't know, in sport, like never like to play with, but rather to test myself. Play 12 years of practice 12 years of swimming, I don't know, literally on my own. It's the most solitary sport you can do in a way, and to me, it's like if I'm set on one track, I go on it, and it's always been like this. So, but I'm very ambitious at the same time, right? And my ambition doesn't stem from a delirium of omni-powerfulness, I would say, but rather on confidence in myself. I must say I've always had it, even though, I built it over time, and I would like in my life to do something with this channel. Not, of course, the money at that point would be a commodity, right? I could do lots of stuff. It's better than nothing. That would come steadily through the ads. I wouldn't need donations. I would just make you suffer a little bit with that 5 seconds of ad to skip at some point. But I think it would be worth it for the broader, for my own, let's say, willingness to remain in this. And because I don't know how it's going to be for me in the next years. I have absolutely no idea. I don't want to be a teacher at all, because I studied too much to be a teacher, and I simply don't think I would like it. Secondly, I have, like, here the situation is catastrophic. That is to say, you finish your PhD, you're literally not, there are no opportunities. Like, postdocs are now, I discovered, not even professors can enter them unless it's private institutions that, however, do not give you so many points as the properly university postdocs for an academic career. So I'm pretty much screwed in a sense, and I should find a kind of a job of some kind, or at least I should start writing as many articles as I can for the academic selection and stuff like that. But it's gonna be hard, right? And I don't know whether even investing so much time on Schwerpunkt is wise in this regard. But at the same time, given the general aim, the fact that this is an educational content, that at the end of the day, I'm doing what also as I was saying before, that supports me also for what I'm doing in real life, I wouldn't be so, I wouldn't throw away this so easily, because of course the channel would always remain. I'm going to leave this content online. In December, I was proven that the basically the subscriptions keep rising, and I really want to make it so. But say when I look at 1,000, more than 1,000 videos, such few subscribers, and I realize that the reason being that if you search for my content, you just have to dig a lot before arriving to it, and that this may be actually one of the reasons why also there are not so many subscriptions, aside from the rest of the factors, the minuses. Well, I say, well, wouldn't it be better to invest this small cash that I can get from donations to boost the channel, make it grow in a decent way, and start to tell the things we say here with a higher voice, right? In a way that, as you know, here we comment for the sake of not of storytelling, but of political awareness, responsibility, and consciousness. That is something that I personally do not see on YouTube, on also on educational channels. Most of these history videos, I'm allergic to them. Some are very fun. They're because they're entertainment aimed, and they're fine. But how much do they leave with a sense of accomplishment? Meant, first of all, with a satisfactory level of accuracy, and how much they actually educate people in regards of the topics that are being. They can maybe inspire them. They can maybe bring them closer to certain historical aspects. But does it really work like that? I don't believe so, because I am very careful about educational problems, and I believe that if there is not a proper commitment driven by an actual purpose and reason, you can read all the history books you want throughout all your life, you will not actually get it. I know people that read all their lives and frankly haven't understood much about this world. And I don't say it because I presume that I know who knows what, but because I realize that there is not a scientific capacity to process that information and to settle a more comprehensive understanding, a systematical one. And I see it everywhere. I mean, I've even been privately, say, invested by this, because I met with people that I cared about that frankly had problems. You see, history is really like this. I mean, what I would like to make you understand here is that I don't know, even historical interests. You would say, I like this leader, I like this battle, I like this period. Already tell a gold mine of information about that person's political view, especially when we talk about military history, and or worldview in general, of course, and values, etc. You can easily stereotype them. I know every person is different, but with, I don't know, already 20 information about that person's historical interest, you can actually reconstruct, great in knowing the person in person, reconstruct most of their actual mindset. And it's something extremely fascinating. People have no idea, right? You're coming to exchange, let's say, history for a sort of, in fact, of entertainment, of saying, what did you do? Well, no, I read a book on this. It was interesting, yes, but eventually, do you have a broader historical capacity of contextualization, of criticism towards? Well, no, I read that because I don't know. It was advised to me by that influencer or that, and then I will pass simply to another book that has nothing to do with that. It's still fine because you should read as more diversified stuff as well, but you should also have some broader systematical understanding. There are lots of people who read history books. How many do you think they understand what is written in there really means without context? And it's easy for me because I talk from years of university experience. So and just constant personal interest in history in basically every single thing I do. Right, even in sentimental matters, I took chances to, I don't know, visit other, countries, learn about other cultures and stuff, because to me that person was the embodiment of some historical reality. We all are, right? And so I'm dominated by it. I'm obsessed by this. It's almost scary at some level. Like I'm a person I don't know. I broke down in tears in front of the tomb of Maria Theresa and Joseph II in the Kapuziner Kirche, and I don't know. I had Stendhal syndrome in the Dome of Florence. I don't know. There are certain things that I am also kind of spiritually involved in all this stuff that is even difficult to describe. I shouted on the island of Rügen in front of Sweden with all the wind and the rain in my face, the passage from the Origo Gentis Langobardorum, where when Freya says, now that you've given them to Woden, now that you have given them the divinely their name, now give them victory, right? That were, the name was the Longbirds, naturally, and so you can understand on these grounds what the broader point of all this is, right? That it's not. This is like more of a spiritual journey. What do I talk about? And this is really, excuse me if I repeat myself, and I interrupt myself at the same time. But it's like when my fight against materialism. It's like also against idealism in a way, but still recognizing that the bias is dramatically shifted towards the first when people in general, popular culture, come across military historical interests. They think it's just about technology. They think it's just about mechanistic matters. That is also kind of a deterministic system. And war is basically, if anything, the worst. It's completely the opposite of that, right? And the reason why we don't know these things is the reason why we vote a person rather than another. In our electoral cabinets, our short-sightedness, in fact, in broader cultural, social matters, is how wrong we do, is how we can mess up the world also, in a way. And if this is not seen, if this is not realized, if we think that history is just telling a novel, telling a story, right? Why do you think there is so much, for example, fantasy stuff around? Right? Why do you think that most people, for example, I discovered at my expense that many people who are into Middle Ages and kind of, sometimes even archaeology, they're in role-playing game. They read a lot of fantasy. Sometimes they mix the things up. I know because I fell in love with one, right? And if we had arguments because I didn't want to hurt her, but certain things I wish I could have explained them, and to me, it's become a reason, right? I believe in certain things that I cannot give up because they are important for people, and I would like to help these people genuinely, truly. This is what I do all this for, and it hurts me because when you see that you failed, then you feel like a waste. Right, because if you lose someone you care about like that, and you're told like the history will be always the first place for you instead of me, and it rips your heart out, and you say, how haven't I been able as a historian to make this person understand that the reason why I love history is because I love her, because this is the point that I would like to make, and this is not a point you hear often out there, because history, once again, it's just entertainment. Do you want history to be just entertainment? Okay, just be fooled by reality. Just buy stuff. Just be invested by cultural prejudices that you don't even realize they are there. That we are obsessed with certain cultures just because of commercial / even political or even racist reasons, and not because the people are even able to horizon themselves into this sea of historical knowledge, right? We as Westerners do not understand anymore the difference between civilization and and tribalism. We simply are denying the path of civilization, the effort, the application, the intelligence that stands behind us, and many other civilizations altogether, because we're all part of the same thing at the end of the day. But let's say as Westerners, we came more far first, in at least by a certain scale, and we have this important task of looking at ourselves and saying, how did it even happen? If you start denying that, you start becoming just a tribalist that doesn't even recognize, that the way we live today is the process of the fact that we crushed tribes under our heels, and that there is a reason why. Also because before we were all tribes, and therefore there was somebody that rose at a certain point from there with some capacity that is primarily through intelligence, that is a true value of civilization. That the rest either followed or succumbed for evident reasons. Even the most atrocious ones, because here we don't wink at anybody. Here we don't have anything but to hide about history. Civilization is built on a bath of blood, but any other human culture is built on a bath of blood. Never think that empires killed more people than tribes. In scale, they killed even more each other than themselves, because they were radically unstable and miserable realities. But the question there is that civilization passed through all these horrors, but it still added something more, something better, to avoid exact that, right? And for us to capitalize upon. And this is the reason why I do this, right? This is the reason why I'm so I care about this, because don't think this, I never said this, but this is miserable, right? My life is I love my life in as much as I managed to do so much in it. I had the possibilities. I traveled, I saw, I read, I met. There is so many things, but life is still miserable. And when especially after this year of quarantine, all this stuff, every day I wake up in the same way, and sometimes the only thing I have is literally this one, to say these things out loud, because otherwise I wouldn't know how I could put myself to use for myself and to others, right? This is my window on the world in many ways, right? I believe that there must be some reason in it. There must be some function. There must be some good, right? And I don't want to be, see, these donations are not because I want to be rewarded personally for it, but because I want to achieve something together with you with this, which is a completely different thing, because the meaning of life for me is not to be happy, but to have accomplished something. That is something completely different, and I believe this is exactly where a value of civilization really lays in. Right, because happiness is meant to be just a moment, and then for the rest we have worked for things, because otherwise we wouldn't do anything. We wouldn't be humans. We wouldn't have a civilization. We would live in the golden age, that is to say, quite in a different state actually, and we wouldn't be human. It wouldn't be impossible in that regard. So I care about this. I care about what I'm doing here, and this channel can be, I don't know, YouTube, as you know, is quite tyrannic in many ways. It can't even take out the channel in a while. So even, for example, for having a lot of following, like we can boost through these donations and consequent YouTube sponsoring, can actually even at some point, if somebody will ever shut my channel down, may say there may be a voice for me that says, if I deserve it, of course, to say reopen it, not let this go away, because I can't say one thing that is either here too brutal or too thought-provoking or too unusual or too violent, because we talk about warfare, and the military is designed exclusively for killing people, and there's no other way around. This is also what our culture has completely forgotten by inventing the lie that war is an evil in itself, where the evil lays, if anything, in people's consciousness, in the political head that used the military exclusively as a tool. The military in itself, of course, it's made by people that will have those minds, but the use of violence can be positive as negative depending on the situation. I don't know. I live in the value from a country that is founded on the concept of resistance, right? And institutionally speaking, and to me, if there hadn't been resistance to Nazi fascism, we wouldn't be free, and therefore violence had to be used. Whereas, those tyrants were using violence as well, but for a negative purpose. And this is still not understood. We still raise children, dehumanizing them by denying it, and that doesn't work, because you cannot erase it's written in our genes that violence shall never be used because it's the best way to deresponsibilize and morally a person, to make them less of a person, and we cannot allow that. This channel is designed on this. The way we talk about the Funkrieg, why we literally teach how war is fought, so that in the case you may, God forbid, you will we will have to fight one. At least we know what the hell we're talking about in the first place. Whereas most people have zero understanding of any kind of this stuff. Would have studied not even military historians study the military art. We are arrived to this point, right? We don't have a worthy military historical tradition in the world. We don't understand that, right? No, the military doesn't understand that. Civilian historians do not understand that. Truly, I'm not kidding, right? Don't think that there are professionals out there that know how war works and, wink, wink, they know their thing. No, but, there are a very tiny fraction of people who should be competent about this that actually even know what we're talking about when studying the Funkrieg. And this is not a matter of, ideological fashions, like, oh no, because no, you like von Clausewitz, but there are other people like Little Hart that criticizes him. Like, if you ever knew something about Little Hart, you wouldn't even, you would simply throw anything that he has written to a bin. And why? And the easy answer is that because you have never studied von Clausewitz, you don't know what is written there, literally. It passed, including Little Hart. Of course, he had probably not even read von Clausewitz. I'm not kidding. I swear. You can't. We will talk about that. This is the difference we can make. We make the difference against irrational and dogmatic belief that is taking over this world. Because what we have conquered here in terms of reason and scientific understanding and individual responsibility is something that has gone down. It's been going down since the 19th century quite fast, right? And it's getting worse. Right, because we boomed. The generation of our parents, of our grandparents boomed. Then so there was this moment of many people with enough money. Today we're coming back to a sort of feudalism. Look at socioeconomical stats. You are being dominated a bit like the late Roman Empire by ideologies that tend to essentially distance the masses from the actual exercise of power by making them believe something that is. For them, not think about that, just think it's that simple. Yes, there are the good guys and the evil guys. We have already seen this before, right? And of course, hopefully things will fix, but they won't go the same way. But still, we see this, and we have changed a lot in 20, 30 years. Of course, there are things we have been improving dramatically, also in this moment, but still, the critical skill, the idea that you can't sort problems out on your own rationally, not because you feel, because your emotions are offended or whatever, because you think you are actually the persecuted one. Because I'm actually talking shit as it should be done, both about leftists and alt-righters. I mean, those are people with serious mental problems. We don't have to give up. It's not. I have faith in liberals and conservatives alike. But definitely not in the extremism that is, corroding them, because it invests all of us, right? And these ideologies are dangerous, but very dangerous. So I'm letting out all this today because I want to make you understand why I do this. I could treat you like, I could start learning how to use graphic programs and to be kind of cooler to script the stuff. But no, I want to keep doing this because I believe that what I say is more important than any kind of shiny or kind of compacted content that can't just deliver the essentials for babies. Essentially, here we are talking about serious things, but really serious ones that you don't find talked anywhere. I've been, let's say, reading, listening to. So there is, I don't see in the arena, in the platea, in the at the horizon, anybody who's talking about this stuff. I happened just to learn these in ways that are even difficult for me to tell because I didn't know up to some years ago about even certain things. I built them by myself. Of course, I was predisposed. I was already around it. but it's rare for somebody to arrive to this point and then realize why. Because it's often inconvenient, because people legitimately also think that history doesn't pay much. But we are in a historical phase where we need education more than ever, right? We don't need less things like, we have to reform our educational systems, but not in the, kind of let's not do anything style that people are, keeping being fed every day, like saying, because it's all the old kind of school system, man, it doesn't work anymore. It's all about that damn homework that is, ruining everything, because kids should be free, man, and that's all the problem. No, kids should be overloaded with theory and practice and sent out there in the world. Otherwise, you have a cheap brain that will be useful only to be exploited, because that's exactly what happens. Here, let's be honest, by Western standards, we say it every time. Do you think the Western people, like the best educated people in the world, are actually satisfactorily schooled? I mean, do you think that, literally in the richest country, the ones that pretend to be, the special ones, etc., kids, adults actually have a satisfactory schooling? But are you kidding me or what? Like, just, I think a 5% of people may hate that. The rest is just, the sheer amount of ignorance and incapacity and moral weakness. It's something, lack of backbone, right? This is what lack of actual education brings to. Of course, you can show that there is a virtuous educational system if you cut homework and learning and stuff, if you want simply to destine a large amount of the population just to make cheap work and to be bunch of imbeciles for the rest of their lives. It's easy. You can create slaves with that. It's very convenient. We have already done it in the past. Unfortunately, I think we should have a bit more of respect for the dignity of human intelligence, inform kids and giving them an actual future, an actual intelligence to make them be competent people, not, passive matter that you can exploit until they're rotting into a coffin after 80 years. It doesn't work like that. We must change this world ourselves. And it can't be done otherwise, right? And I think I have the presumption that what we discuss here is important for this, is important for shaking conscience. It's for giving a purpose to people, to give them a discipline, to give them an order, to telling them what they can do and showing them what historically is being done, not in the usual sense, look at, what Caesar did or Napoleon. Well, also them in a sense, but not in the conventional sense that everything repeats itself, that you should imitate those, you should become a fanatic of those. But simply by telling them, look what human beings altogether can do when they really want to do something, as a society, as a world, not just the top guy, but literally also those who stood behind it, and the sheer amount of effort and sufferance and pain that costed, right? So things do cost, and we know that. I've been doing these videos for 3 years now, and I loved it, and it did cost, right? And this is the reason all good things come at a cost, right? Actually, everything comes at a cost, but only the good ones can compensate for those. And I love what I do here for myself. Do I have high standards, low standards? I don't know, right? For most things, I have high standards, and it's hard because you get frustrated easily. But if you don't even try, like, what do you do it for? What do you live for? It's already too late than you can ever imagine. You will die much sooner. You will suffer much more than you can ever imagine. And now you have the possibility of making the difference. This is what I mean in everything you do in your life, and you can always do the difference. This is so important. It may not be enough, but at least it will have given you something. It will have given others something else. We rest literally on the shoulders of giants, meant as entire civilizations that worked and spit blood and struggled for it. And we are forgetting this, and this is the recipe for doom. Right, so let's reacquire our power. Let's reacquire our conscience and consciousness, and let's be worthy of our intelligence, which is probably the most difficult thing to do. It's the greatest challenge of humanity, because we do this, others don't, and we are here entrusted with the world, right? This shall pass for us individually, but for others it will go on. We can make the difference for them too. So, I don't know, maybe I digressed and got kind of heated in these ways, as you understand, but this is for explaining to you how much and what I am driven by personally, because we all have different reasons, and I don't doubt that you have lesser reasons than mine. Many of you have much greater reasons than mine, believe me. And I believe it, of course. And I'm struggling myself for having them, because that's, as I told you, what life to me is about. It's about achievement, not in the obsession of success, but the actual positive purpose of achieving something. Hopefully for a better reason, for a better world, for improving, for doing things right. And until you don't try, you will never do the right thing. You will let it escape, right? It's not a chimera, because the truth does exist. We can approach it. We can never reach it, but we can always come a step closer, and there is no limit in that. There is no excuse. We can always do better, right? It doesn't matter how well we do. There's still something more we can do, especially when we have the opportunity of doing it. So this is the reason why I decided to open to donations, because I really believe that if this is going to fuel itself, we can make it a big thing, and not just a niche content or channel, whatever. We can bring it to higher levels, and I truly believe in it, right? I truly believe in the name of all of what we talked about here. And you know what it's about as followers of mine. And we know how important it really is. This is not just me, it's not just you. It's us. This is a collective value, right? And therefore we have a much greater power than if we were just acting individually, right? So, I'm not asking for alms. I'm not even asking for donations. I'm just enabling you to give. Because we have understood at some point that if we don't put something in common for the effort, we're going to be from the losing side of the story. Like all the military history we make here shows us constantly that those who made it in practice were the ones who had made a greater effort for it, right? And here there is much to win. Believe me, I don't want to tell you now what it could be about, but we can arrive far. It can be like, just think a voice like this, in a, I don't want to say political context, but at least in a position that can be listened by many to become a game changer at some level. I'm not kidding, and we should believe in it. If you really believe in what some of you tell me, but average persons wouldn't understand these things. Why wouldn't they? Right there, we've explained many times how this is actually not that difficult. How there isn't that great effort to make concretely. Right? We have really a possibility to change things by explaining them to people. That's why you came here in the first place, right? This is no, let's say, no coincidence. Evidently, we have some interest in common, yes, but it's not just an interest. It's not just an horizontal thing where you space on the different channel. Everything is unique, right? But this one is just more different, right? I would say it like this. I'm not saying that Schwerpunkt has, as I was saying before, this dramatic, efficacy, I would say, in just content delivering, whatever. But it has a point that I tell you, I never hear it around. Even just in political debate, I don't see it. I don't see the need to reflect on these aspects and to drive away from factionalism and in order to pursue objectivity and reliability and an actual scientific approach to life in the most neutral, say even anti-ideological sense of the term. I don't see it. Believe me, I don't. I really don't. I think people get satisfied with cheap stuff, right? With cheap explanations, with just a vague idea that there may be something more complex, but really not making the effort to go look at it themselves, and just listening to somebody who has to tell them, an opinion. How many so-called opinionists are there in our world, and what do they actually do? Are they actually worthy people to be listened to? So some of them say just some of the most banal things you could ever listen, and people say, yeah, I will stick to that because the guy's either liberal or conservative, and therefore I'm part of that club and I'm cool. And then shit happens, because it always does, and then you say, how was that possible? Well, guess why? Right? Because you didn't give a damn about the actual problem. You were just trying to make yourself feel more confident, simply because you know that you're not, simply because you know that you lack that amount of confidence with the world, with the actual understanding of it, and with the realization that there are ways to actually understand it that do not go through simple hearsay or approximations or opinions. Many people, I know, it's intellectually seducing to think that there are different opinions, and that therefore you can always listen to a different thing. Yes, but let's be also equally honest. The point is that if there are two opinions, either they're both false or just one of the two is right. At least one is better than the other in absolute terms. Right? Then determining how is a challenge. But for real, I mean, and truly, one is the better one and the other is the worst one. They can integrate themselves in a sense, but still there is a value that you can't say that whatever you say is meaningful or worthy or intelligent, whatever. No, that there should be a scale, and this scale is being lost. We're making too much relativism in our time, and what is paradoxical is that it comes very often also through much absolutism, also as a reaction, just as pacifism doesn't come but because of militarism and vice versa, and therefore why we should drive away ever more from any kind of ism and come into a kind of a central, not for the sake of moderation. Well, people say, if you're a centrist, or I'm not personally, but you're just neutral. Who told you that, right? Because you think that, I don't know, scientific understanding is neutral. It's probably one of the most radical positions you can take, exactly because it comes to deny certain misconceptions that you would constantly buy into, and that for you is the normality at the end of the day, while it's keeping to engulf the system, and you don't even recognize it. So, okay, I think I got, you got the point, and I really hope that this is gonna help, because I will leave you here with the with the email and everything for PayPal and all this stuff, and I don't expect to wake up tomorrow and to find my account filled with 2,500. But the question is that even if I get, I don't know, in 1 month I get, I don't know, $10, I reinvest that in the channel, and at one point it will fundamentally go by itself. So I will even stop donations, because at that point they wouldn't be needed anymore. This is literally my new monetization strategy, because I think that if I leave this on, probably the channel is going to grow. There is no doubt about that, but the rhythm is too slow, and life is too short, and therefore we have to do something about this. And it's an important step. Don't think that for me it's easier, because I am going to be naturally more involved into this. I'm going to, in fact, take ever more responsibility the greater number of subscribers there is, and also I'm probably going to receive a greater blow if something goes wrong. But it's my own responsibility, right? You are just and I'm burdened by that, right? I'm burdened by your expectations. So I'm going to do better exactly because of this. I'm going to be pressured by it, right? Like it's most things in my life, I don't have technically, they didn't start because of a positive, but rather because of the fear of something wrong to happen, which is good, right? As long as it doesn't become paranoia. But this is pretty much it. So summing up, hoping to get, I don't know, some tens of dollars in a year to just experimentally invest into this, and then I would relate to you, because let's say if next 100 video channel update that I usually make every 3 months, I already had some money to invest in here, and I can tell you the stats of how it grows, and I see that, for example, is inconvenient. Well, we have to fix it, right? We have to invent something else, and I would probably resign from this idea. I would probably leave free donations in general, because that's what was my original plan, and therefore it's just completely random, whoever wants to donate for whichever reason. But this now of investment, according to me, it seems like a good idea. Right now that we have 3,600 subscribers, I'm sure somebody will pour a cent, and there can be some benefit to it. I believe this. Then I don't know, or I repeat, then eventually it's pretty much obvious that if one day we manage to reach a satisfactory number of subscribers, and I enable ads, even the money that I get from Schwerpunkt will be partially, it would be like a job, like it would be partly invested naturally in I don't know, I will buy books. We could organize, I said it very often, we could organize some, as some of you have actually rightly defined it, a field trip somewhere historical. We can hold meetings, we can have conventions, something, right? At that point, if it's really, we could engage in debates and stuff, I think it would be pretty interesting. And I'm looking forward for it. If I had to say, it's something I would like to do in my life, even though I am a completely different person and not social at all. But it's somewhere where I've dreamt to be at some point in my life, and this is really something I count on, right? And I can say count on you in the sense that I count on your donations. Not in that sense. I count on you as subscribers. I count on you to look. You know what? I must tell you this. I've written it also in the channel description. The best thing you can do for Schwerpunkt is not a donation, right? The potential lays in sharing, right? If you think that, to those who, I don't know, maybe I say this, somebody wants to say, oh, let's give him, $10. I will tell you this. Instead than giving me $10, which may not be, okay, well, they're mathematically, given that it would be reinvested on YouTube, sharing, we should count at least how much YouTube make us get in terms of subscriptions. But in general, like if you don't want to donate also for any reason, or you're too lazy, or you simply don't care, or legitimately like me, like why should I pay? Like, that's my first thing that comes into my mind. There is another thing you can do that is way more important than that. You can share the content. You can share. Sharing is fundamental in this, because as I've just said before, the deal here is that people who get acquainted with Schwerpunkt like Schwerpunkt in a way that should be exploited. So the more people know about this, the more people talk about this. Even let's assume there is somebody who hates us, but it's still better in terms of our growth than than nothing, right? I don't think anybody should hate us because, yeah, we say quite punching stuff, but it's not so, we can't be framed ideologically. We can't be framed right or left. We can't be framed, let's say, theistic or atheistic. We are free from that. Like, we love liberty more than else. We understand that even absolute freedom is negative, right? Liberty is a positive freedom because it's regulated, and from there civilization value stems. So it's this discipline, it's this order, it's this intelligence, it's this positivity that should fuel Schwerpunkt, and I really believe it will happen. I believe in it, right? There are few, like in life, you have to believe in things, not to say better. You have to have faith in things, because you can believe something and that belief will change at some point. You will see it differently, etc. But faith is necessary on the grounds of action, a positive action, of determination. Because if you don't have faith, basically you can't take another step. You're frozen. You say, okay, this thing won't work, or I don't think it can be done. And everything can be done if you really want that. And I'm trying here to give some valid reason for doing it, because in my mind it works, right? It has to pass through yours to be processed and say, okay, give you green light. But I truly believe in it. I truly have faith that this can be done and that we can really get somewhere with this. And I wouldn't waste this chance for anything, really. I know that Schwerpunkt can, at some point, it depends on how it goes, literally. This is the problem. It depends on how it goes. Well, you want this to go on kind of forever? It can happen. And if the channel grows like that, it will likely happen like that. So I'm very confident about this, and so this also will require some effort, because one negative side, if I ever come to sponsor the videos, I will try to do mostly the battle ones that are the most far from any kind of ideological content, because it's a purely tactical analysis. We'll start from there, so we'll hopefully also acquire an audience of actual military interested, military competent, military let's say curious people. So, but it will be important to also integrate this new audience, because how difficult it can be sometimes to get, not to understand, but to actually accept certain concepts that we state here, right? It's not that we lack intelligence, it's that we put some barriers around it, because we feel more secure like that. Sometimes we have to be bold, and that will be, with the right amount, be rewarded, right? And we have to be bold just right now, right? It's a double, we don't know how this is gonna go, but by trying, we will discover it. And really, I think we are doing a good job. We have been doing well so far. I believe in it. I've seen it. I see your support. I see your dedication. I see your appreciation and your commitment. Your points. We're doing well. So I will end it here, because I wish I had told you these things before at some point. I wish I had tried to be more insistent on these. I wish I had sometimes really said things really better. Every time I make a video, I wish I always say, I wish I had said this better. I wish I had been less heated. I wish I had been more logical. I wish I had delivered this, because I believe in what I'm going to deliver. It's just the way I do it that makes all the difference, right? Sometimes, and therefore I struggle, right? I'm really, every day it's always a new challenge. I got used to the lifestyle of it, or the routine, the habit of it, but I'm growing, right? And I'm improving myself, and that's what makes me confident ever and ever more. And we can do this for all the things that you didn't know could be possible, right? Because at the end of the day, what do we do with this for? We all have our reasons. We all have our hope, right? Think about, especially this, we have a prevalently male audience. We know that male mostly fail in life. We are frustrated in ways sometimes, especially that concern our our capacity to be in the game, right, and to take the lead and to learn how to obey and then how to learn how to command. It's written in our, we see that. I'm very pleased by our female audience that is seemingly growing, and I'm very proud of this. And it should be, if I could choose, I would really like it to be equal on that ground. But you know that YouTube is kind of more male dominated. But so that's why I mostly address you in this sense. And I tell you, just think it like the best thing you think of. Like when you stay on these sites, we feel like we're wasting some time by listening to stuff. Maybe we should have homework or work, or maybe we should do better for our families, for the people we love. And there is a dream in our, we can reach it. I believe we can give hope and security to others if we go on like this. I believe it. I do it for this very reason, and you know that I even paid bitterly for this sometimes, because I truly believe in such things. I believe that good things happen if you really work hard for them. So that is the point. How hard are you going to work? That is all, right? And I don't know if I work that hard, but I try. Here you don't see what I do in the rest of the time, so you can't judge, and it's not important. It's me. I'm in charge of myself, like any person, like all you are in charge of yourself. And I think making the difference is not a matter of stats, of structure, things that have to happen, that we're destined to happen. No, we are the makers of our own destiny. And I truly believe in this, that you will never bring us to do exactly what we want. It won't be enough. Most of the times in our lives we will complexively fail, in the sense that all the things we would hope to go better, well, of course they won't go like that, but still we will have done something, and that something is what we will be judged in the end. I truly believe in it. I believe it. It's my faith. It's what I see in every day. It has nothing to do with religion or non-religion. It has to do literally how I see the world like. And I would like to transmit this in every battle I talk about, in every von Clausewitz paragraph I comment on, in every view, historiographical criticism. I truly believe that does make the difference. And always remember, history, not stories, make the difference. If you want stories, at least to be useful for others, you have to have made a history before. And yeah, all right. So really, I thank you all for. I told you what those who follow me more regularly know what I've gone through recently on the long run, to the last year especially, and I must say that this is amazing. I mean, the fact that I'm talking to you and that there are so many of you that are listening to this, it gives me a purpose that I don't want it to be a selfish thing. I don't want to be a earned thing of mine. I don't want, if you ever donate something, I thank you in advance for anybody who will want to do it ever since now. I don't want to treasure that. I want to share it in this system, because we have such a huge potential that together that you wouldn't even believe. And you make it, right? I would talk here even if there was just one person listening, or the hope that somebody would listen. It would be worth for me. But also you have made the greatest difference, and that is really what matters here. So I thank you again for what you've done, all what you have done, all this time, all these videos, all those views, all those days and days of watch length. I see you here. I don't know you. I don't see your faces. I can't hear your voices. I don't know where. I actually can know where you are from, but like literally not, who you are in that full sense. But I, I know that you're there. So I thank you enormously for it, and I especially wish you. I will salute you today with something different. That is to say, I wish you really, all of you, to succeed in everything you do in your life, and I truly mean it, right? Because succeeding is not like, that there is a terrorist out there, okay, so I will blow myself up. No, I don't mean that, because you would still fail if you do something like that. Because I believe there is a truth, and that people make mistakes. So it's easy to make mistakes. It's easy to get blows, to be brought down. But I wish you to succeed in everything you do, because you cannot succeed in something bad. You only succeed in something good. So I wish you that, and I know that you can do it. Because I've studied too much history to know that humans can't do that. And nobody will be ever able to tell you that you can't. So that's why I wish you to, because I know that you can, and that you will, if you really believe and work hard for it. And I hope that this channel will help in that, in a way. If it does, even in a small amount, it will be all worth it for me to have done all this. So I thank you really, really, really much again. And I wish you a great time, and see you next time. Bye.